wanted to talk a little bit today about being triggered and being triggered by other people being triggered, which I have seen, especially in the online world, that we can't help and stay away from. But being triggered, people who necessarily, or people who have an issue with other people being too sensitive because they're weak and I'm strong and you're weak and all that kind of stuff, if you catch my drift. Basically projecting onto others who you view as overly sensitive, okay? So this right now is a reflection of the rigidity of society, okay? So you have folks who are more like the oak tree. The oak tree. If you've ever heard, there's a quote about an oak tree and a willow tree, but folks who are like the oak tree, they're strong, they're sturdy, they got their feet planted in the ground and they say, nobody can move me. Not anybody outside will move me or my opinion or anything. I want things to stay as they've been. Stay on my ground, right? And I'm gonna fight with you because I'm strong until I get my way, because I'm right. I'm the oak tree, I'm bigger than you. And then you got people who are like the willow tree. So the willow tree will kind of flow with things, right? They adapt to things. So here's a question. What happens when a huge gust of wind comes? Huge gust of wind comes. Well, for the oak tree is standing there tall. I'm strong. Come at me, wind. Come at me. But the thing is, the oak tree is so strong, it's rigid. It is tight. It is rigid. So what happens? Huge gust of wind comes. It snaps in half. While on the other hand, the willow tree, a huge gust of wind comes and it kind of sways and it bends to the wind. And then it goes back to wind gust gone, it goes back to its position. So who's stronger in that case, right? So you see this out in the world right now. You got the people who are the oak tree and you got the people who are the willow tree. They'll bend, they evolve to things, they adapt to things. And there are advantages and disadvantages to being either, right? You could say, is it better to be strong or is it better to be more flexible? Well, it depends on the situation, right? But in my book, flexibility is really key in life. And when it comes to people projecting onto others for feeling overly sensitive, it's basically a reflection of their own triggers, internal triggers, right? Because they don't want things to change around them. They say, I'm an oak tree. I don't like change. I don't like change. And this perfectly ties into the season of the wood element, which I talk about right now as we're moving into spring, because the wood element has a lot to do with growth, but it's also about vision for the future. But out of balance or in excess, it can be about rigidity, not seeing other people's perspective necessarily, which can be dangerous. As we know, it can be very, very dangerous. And a lot of times, people don't like change because it's a human threat. It's a threat, okay? We don't feel safe anymore. Goes back to that childlike need for the human, not feeling safe anymore. So if things change around me, too much is changing around me, this is out of my comfort zone. I don't feel safe anymore. Like my body doesn't feel safe. That's our natural instinct, is to try to protect ourselves. And when we're rigid like that and we don't see other people's perspective, what happens is it's almost like we have an allergy to change. So when your body has an allergy, what happens? It goes through a histamine reaction. Things get red, they get inflamed. Same thing with folks who are so rigid where they can't see another person's viewpoint at all in life. They become red, they become inflamed, the energy starts moving up and then outward. They project it onto other people. Don't believe me? Just observe the world around you. So I always like to tie things into nature, because why not? We are part of nature, right? So it's funny to me and it's sad to me, but it's also interesting because we have this viewpoint where I think in our heads, we know that like kindness and compassion is the better way to be, just because as human beings, it's ingrained somewhere in us, like it's in our heart, like somewhere, it's this big, it's big, like pea size. But we live in a society just for so long that anger and just projection is so much easier. It's easy because that's become our comfort zone, right? So, you know, whenever we're viewing, we do have this view of like kindness as being weak in a sort of way. Again, observe just society, right? Like kindness, compassion, oh, it's like fluffy, that's like stupid, it's like, ugh, right? Like that person's a weirdo for being positive or being anything like that. It's new age, hippie, spiritual, woo-woo crap. It's not based on science or anything like that, right? So it's this overall viewpoint that like the oak tree standing there, the rigid, the tall, like overpowering, strong, loud person is better in a sort of way, right? Anger is better because we're so used to it. Kindness is weak. But really, anger, irritability, frustration, we're so used to it. That's the easy emotion in my book. So easy to feel that. So easy to feel that. Take a look around you. But having compassion for somebody else, really learning to look at another's viewpoint is really freaking hard. Because we're not used to it. We're not used to it. Take, like sexuality, for example, transgender, non-binary. The rigid tree will say, well, these things weren't around 10 years ago. Like, why does it have to change now? And they throw a tantrum. And they say, things can't change. Like, this is stupid because I'm right. The tree, standing their ground, doesn't take other people's viewpoints, is always right. But that's part of ego, pride. All that kind of stuff. They don't know what it's like to be in another person's shoes because they can't see past their own ego, their own strength. Blah, blah, right? Let me do some bicep curls. It's amazing, right? They can't view anything else. So whenever people are getting angry at somebody else for being overly sensitive to things and cancel culture. I mean, I see both sides. I really, really do, because I agree with things on both sides. Because again, it's ingrained in me too, where it's like, we shouldn't be overly sensitive to everything, you know? But I don't know what that person is going through. If you're sensitive to that subject and I'm not, then how am I supposed to understand you? I can't, especially if I'm stuck in my ways being very, very rigid. There's no way that I'm gonna go outside my little scope of, you know? But think of a tree. A tree has branches. It's made to not just be in this one location. It's meant to expand, to grow in sort of ways, right? Not just up, but out. Word as well. Think about that. So that's just the point I wanted to bring up today, you know, and it's really become a thing where just it's backwards to me, right? Again, anger is so easy to feel. We feel it every day. We're always in like a constant state of stress, which is really unhealthy for our bodies. But the ability to transcend that into something more, into a place of compassion for other human beings, that is where the wisdom comes in. That is where our own transformation comes in. A lot of us will be in this little box, I like to talk about boxes, just standing there, stagnant, not moving. But hey, guess what? Everything around us is moving. Everything is changing. I talk about the seasons a lot. Everything in nature is always changing. Species are always evolving, You may not see it from today till tomorrow, but I guarantee over hundreds of years or thousands of years, it does go on. So the role that you play on an individual and daily basis is eventually going to affect the whole. You don't think it will, but it will. So just some food for thought. Anyway, let me know what you think. You know, a little bit of a vent session, but it's something that kind of hit home with me that I've been witnessing, and I just wanted to do a video about it today. So if you like my stuff, subscribe. I put out new videos every single day on self-empowerment, self-help, Chinese medicine, all kinds of cool stuff for you. And I will see you on the next video. So until next time, peace.